And just like that, it's magic. We are, in fact, live. So we are here for an author interview with Patricia Meredith, author of many fantastic books. We've got the Spokane Clocktower and the new debut. Well, not debut, but the new debut in a new series. There we go.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. A Deed of Dreadful Note, the Anna Catherine Green Mysteries #1. Patricia, why don't you, I just introduced you, but introduce yourself more.
So yeah, let's see. I discovered Anna Catherine Green about 5 years ago, and thought that it was time to reintroduce her to the world, and so that's what my new series is about. And then before that, I took a deep dive into Spokane's history. Spokane, Washington is where we lived for the last 8 years, and that's those three. Yep, starting with Butcher Baker, and I think Andrew just finished all 3 of them. So
I did.
it's
I did.
going well.
In fact, I have now read more of your books than I have Andrew's. Don't tell him, even though I know he's in the comments. I still need to read 4 scored, and then that'll tie up the score.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
So a question I've actually never asked you. I don't think I've asked you this one. And for people in the comments, like I have interacted with Patricia and her husband Andrew many, many times. So if this feels like a conversation between friends and it doesn't feel like an author interview, I apologize. What made you gravitate towards like mysteries instead of, say, like fantasy, horror, historical? Well, I guess this is historical fiction, but
yes, yeah.
What made you gravitate towards this specific genre versus?
Oh gosh, I've always loved mystery. That's my favorite thing to watch, favorite thing to read. It's let's see, I love the puzzle aspect of it. So I love I prefer my mysteries where I can solve it, right? Where I can almost solve it right before the end. So I'm right tracking there with all the clues and everything. I don't really like the mysteries where, well, like a while back, I discovered Columbo and actually started watching Columbo. And I decided I love Columbo. I love Peter Falk. I love him as Columbo, but I don't really care for that setup for a mystery where it starts with, here's the murderer and here's how it was done, and now let's just see how Columbo solves it, right? I much prefer a whodunit, I guess, instead of a why done it. That's almost what it is. Or how is the detective going to solve this one? So I definitely, And so like even with like even Agatha Christie and some of the more well-known names, sometimes like Castle. That's another TV show that I love Castle, but they have a tendency to not give you all the details along the way, right? Yeah. So it's very often like, oh, and surprise, here's this character that you didn't know about that, yep, they're the one who did it, right? And so, whereas like Psych is another one that we've been rewatching through. I love Psych.
I never got into Psych. I did watch a lot of Murder, She Wrote.
Yes, Murder, She Wrote. Oh, that's another great one.
Fantastic.
Love that one. Yes.
I used to watch it. That's Angela Lansbury, right?
Yes.
If I said that name right.
Yes.
Who I know from Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Exactly. Right. And Beauty and the Beast and like all of those classics. And I love those ones. Those are Monk is another one.
Monk is good. I love Tony Shalhoub in Monk.
Yeah. There's just so many good mystery series out there. So so actually, like I've always loved mystery. I've read a lot of mystery, and so I just finally hit a point where I was like, you know what, I could write that. Okay. So I tried it, and it worked out.
So, and for those of you who don't know, you are a part of a husband-wife author duo, but you don't write together. You're just both authors. Have you contemplated writing together?
Briefly.
Or would you just strangle each other?
Yeah, it's more that we have very different ways of writing, and so I don't know. I think if we did, it would have to be one of those like dual POVs where like he wrote one and I wrote the other, or we each wrote 2 or something like that, and then wove them together. So that could maybe work because that's we do both write multiple POV stories, and we're both very character driven, and we talk about our books all the time. So maybe someday.
Okay, I do remember Andrew at one point saying that yours and his writing process was very different. Like you will write a bunch of different scenes like puzzle pieces, like you said, and then you will interconnect them together to form the whole picture. And he's like, that's not my style.
No, he's very linear. He goes from beginning to end, and he can't along the way like put other things in. It doesn't work for him. So
okay. All right. So Anna Catherine Green, right here. What now? I know the answer to this. Why Anna Catherine Green?
So Anna Catherine Green. So she is the mother of detective fiction, where like Edgar Allan Poe is considered the father of detective fiction because he invented Auguste Dupin. So it's he is the first detective in literary fiction.
Poe is? Poe?
Poe.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, Dupin is the first time you see a literary detective. Before him, there is a memoir written by an actual thief turned, like a criminal turned detective who was French. Vidocq is his name. Yeah. Vidocq is his name. I always mix it up with because there's also Detective Lecoq, who is invented by Emile Gaboriau. So, but yeah, Vidocq is actual memoirs, but they're very hyperbole. So Poe technically made up Dupin, but he's inspired by Vidocq. And so, yeah, so Poe is considered the father of detective fiction. So unfortunately, there's not a female author of detective fiction until many years later, because Poe was in the 30s, I think. And then Anna Catherine Green, her debut is in 78. So
we're talking 18.
Pretty big gap. Yeah, 18. Yeah. Even earlier. Like it's way back there. So yeah, it's
okay. That's very cool. And this one of the tidbits that you've shared with me over multiple discussions is that there is not a lot of Anna Catherine Green that is readily available for easy consumption.
Right.
So
in fact, you mentioned that because you were trying to find them and you were like, I can't find them anywhere. You're like, nope, no.
I went to Barnes & Noble and I was like, surely if she's the mother of detective fiction, they had Agatha Christie.
Right.
Easy. Yeah. They had Arthur Conan Doyle. Mm-hmm. No Anna Catherine Green. But no Anna. And I was just like, I was ready to go in there and buy the book. Hi, Cat. Hello. Yes, I'm mad at you. Anyway, sorry.
But yeah, you can't find her anywhere. It's very hard to find her. The only places I've really found her are like online on like ebooks, because usually if you type in Anna Catherine Green into like Gutenberg, right, they have all the public domain stuff. But even that, they only have, I think I last counted 18 books of her books, and she wrote 36 books plus 2 collections of poetry. So it's very hard to find all of them. There is a collected works that came out from like Penguin, I think it is, someone like that put out a collected works of Anna Catherine Green, and that has everything in it. So you could get that, but it's a chonker. So but then you have all of them in one place.
Massively huge.
Yes. Yeah.
So because you love Anna Catherine Green, and I'm just spitballing, is there a potential, because it's public domain, would you consider putting it out through Games Afoot?
Yes. So yes, I have Leavenworth Case. So the Leavenworth Case is her first novel, her debut novel, and that's the one that she's writing in my book. There I am. There we go. Yes. So yeah. So that whole book follows the writing of the Leavenworth Case, and it's I made up a case, but it's inspired by the Leavenworth Case. So basically, you're reading a retelling of the Leavenworth Case while also reading historical fiction about her life, which is an idea I kind of took from The Man Who Invented Christmas, which is a movie about Dickens writing A Christmas Carol. And I just recently found out that it's actually based on a book. So I'm going to check that book out and read it, because I'm very excited, because it's a wonderful form of, I think is a great way to introduce people to an author, especially one that's lesser known, because this way you'll kind of see what her writing style is like, and then you can go find her and pick up the Leavenworth Case and read it. So I have released the Leavenworth Case in ebook. I was able to do it just through my newsletter. So I just made an ebook because you can find the whole public domain file online. So, and anybody can reproduce it any way you want. And when that was kind of part of what gave me the idea of writing this book that way, because then I could incorporate lines straight from her, things that she actually wrote. There's a lot of, straight up, okay, now she's going to go write this scene in the book, and then she goes and writes it, and I can actually put it in my book because it's public domain. So it just makes it a little bit easier to share all of that. So yeah, so I've got the ebook available through my newsletter by signing up for my newsletter on my website, patricia-meredith.com. And then my husband, Andrew, is recording the book as an audiobook. And so we will be able to actually sell that version because you can do that with public domain works for the audiobooks. So I don't know if I'm going to release a print version. I'm still trying to figure out, like, there's a bunch of loopholes and, and copyright law stuff. And I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly. So, but in the meantime, I can plan a whole series of books where she's in each one writing a different one of her books, and introduce people that way. So.
And I know you don't want to like do an adventure for each story, like a Murder She Wrote type of deal.
Yeah.
You kind of wanted to do some time jumps.
Yes.
With this series. So do you have like a number of books that you kind of want to cap it at?
Not yet. The first thing I want to do is I want to look through her timeline and pick out, like, what are the things that I have to make sure are featured, right? So things like a book centering around her getting married to her husband, maybe when she first becomes a mom, which should be around the same time as when Sherlock appears. And I definitely want to write a book about her writing her book at the same time that Sherlock first comes into the world, because it is after she's already famous. She's got, I think, 7 or 9 books by the time Sir Arthur Conan Doyle introduces Sherlock. But then he becomes more famous, right? And so I want to kind of look at that, how did she feel about that, and try to find some documented evidence for that. I don't want to just make it up. I would like to find out if I can find some journals and things like that. And that's what I'm constantly on the hunt for, is more information about her, because it's really hard to find anything about her that's not just the basic stuff that I keep seeing repeated everywhere. So maybe a book, but that needs to be a book centering around that. And then towards the end of her life, when Agatha Christie enters the scene, because Agatha Christie actually mentions reading the Leavenworth case as one of the books that made her want to write mystery. So I definitely want to, examine that relationship, because by that point, Anna Catherine Green, she dies in 1935. Agatha Christie's first novel is in 1920, I think. Mysterious Affair at Styles is in 1920. So it's only 15, so Anna Catherine Green would be in her 70s. So it'd be just interesting, right? That's probably the last book that was kind of her passing off the mantle, because up until that point, she was the Agatha Christie of her day. She was the name that everybody knew for mystery as a female author.
And now nobody knows who she is.
Yeah, and now nobody knows who she is, and it's so sad. So just when I discovered that, I was just like, wow, okay. No, she needs to be brought forward again. So.
Okay. So kind of segueing off of that, because these aren't just pure pieces of fiction, you are a mystery historical fiction writer.
Yes.
What does your research process kind of look like?
Yeah, I go pretty deep into the research, which is why I decided to start my blog. The way that I do my blog is basically sharing all the information that doesn't make it into the books, because there is a whole iceberg under there of research, and even that I barely shared hardly anything. I need to get better about posting more things up there, because there's just so much that I have found that I want to share. And I didn't want to, you don't want to info dump in the book. And then there's only so much I can put in the historical notes in the back of the book. And so the rest of it is, you need to go to my website, because that's where I'm going to post as much as I can. And I'm trying to save some things back, right, for later reveals and future books, things like that. But as much as I can, it'll be on my website, because there's so much research. And this one really started, all of them really start, there's like 4 levels of research. I was writing it down the other day, thinking about, like, there's like the overarching, okay, I'm going to look up Anna Catherine Green. What can I find about her? And it's all this basic Wikipedia level information. And then I'm like, okay, so what about Anna Catherine Green when she was writing her first book? Okay, that's more specific. So then you can get more detailed, and you're like, okay, now I'm looking at a specific date, right? What was she doing on this date in her life? Can I get that specific? I don't have a journal for her, so not really, but I was able to find a bunch of wonderful articles where she was interviewed, because she was famous. So people wanted to know, what's your writing process? How did you write your first book? All of this. So she wrote lots of articles herself, and then was interviewed a lot. and answered those questions. And so it's like, okay, so actually writing about her first book should be pretty easy because half of it's right there. The rest, so I don't have to make up most of it. Most of it can just come straight out of her mouth. And then I just have to make up a little bit around it to I like to say it breathes life into history, right? I'm just reminding you that she's a real person with real problems, with real expectations and, things like that. And yeah.
And then, of course, you've created a couple of characters from, specific characters like Grease.
Yes.
Who is
Grace,
it Tom Blanc?
Yes. Detective Grace. Yeah. So Detective Grace is her creation for the Leavenworth case.
So
and that's that's the name of her detective. So then I invented Sokol, who in the book is her inspiration for Grace, but it's actually vice versa. And I talk about that in the historical notes, that it's actually, I discovered Grace in her books and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to write this character. And so I created him in the first book. So that way I could take a deeper dive into him. So.
Okay. Yeah. And so, of course, we now have kind of dove into your Anna Catherine Green. What about the Clocktower mysteries?
Yes. I love the
These gorgeous, but I love the Clocktower mysteries as well. Ringing endorsement right here.
Yes.
I hadn't read a mystery since high school until these.
Oh my goodness.
So, and the fact that I love them so much should say something, especially Crazy Maids in a Row.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it brought everything together, or why did you like that one?
Well, because like what happens in like cupboards are all bared is I was like, I wasn't like happy with the way things were going, but like that's like life. Yeah. Because like it's like, no, that's not what I want these characters to do.
Right.
Do what I want. Make me feel good. I don't care about your lives. You're fictional.
Right.
And then Crazy Maids in a Row was just like all coming together and the world was right at the end.
Well, and that I'm writing more in that series.
Yes.
So the first three. So what I've got planned is the Clocktower. The reason it's called the Spokane Clocktower Mysteries. The Clocktower actually still exists. You can go visit it in Spokane. And they started building it in May of 1901. And so the books follow. Actually, I jumped right behind May. So it's April, May, June is the first three books. And then basically my plan is to do a book per month of the building of the Clocktower. But it ends up working out to 13 books because I'm going to do a Christmas standalone. But that makes it a baker's dozen, which works because of my baker. So.
The Christmas story might have a little crossover action going on, correct?
Yes, right. Okay. Well, and actually the September one. Yeah, it'll be the September one. The Christmas one will be a standalone, and so I'll take a step back from the main POVs that I'm following in the series. But in the September one, I'll take some characters to the Pan American Exposition, which happened in Buffalo, New York, and Anna Catherine Green's future husband actually went to the Pan American Exposition and had a booth and everything. And so I plan on having a little bit of a wave across the aisle there at some point. So.
Okay, and he was a renowned furniture maker, correct?
He was, yes, yeah. Charles Rolfs, yeah. So in fact, when you look him up, sometimes it's funny because they're both they both end up being famous in their own ways. When he married her, she was the more famous of them. But by the end of life, they were about comparable because he becomes very famous for his in the arts and crafts movement for his furniture creations. So,
I went down a rabbit hole of Googling furniture when I discovered it's like these really slim backed chairs. And I was just like, what is going on here? And I spent a good 10 minutes looking at furniture that was attributed to him.
Awesome.
For no particular reason other than I could.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In fact, he's easier to find information for in some ways than she is. Yeah. So, yeah. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
So, the A Deed of Dreadful Note, which is a mouthful for me to say because my brain is tired, has been a 4-year journey for you?
Yes. Yeah.
4 or 5?
Almost more like 5. Yeah, because it was like a year of researching and writing the first draft. But then I took a 4-year break. Yeah, because I wrote the first draft and then took a step back from it And it was basically ready at that point, but I felt like there was still something missing. And then I worked on the Spokane Clocktower mysteries and got those the first 3 done. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get those 3 done, and then I'll look at it again. So then I came back to it about a year ago, and just dove headlong into Anna Catherine Green. Made some major changes to it.
You did a whole tense shift.
A whole tense shift. Yeah, I went from third person to first person, and just I loved that. It brought it all more personal. And by that point, I had done more research for her, so there were lots of little detail things that I was like, okay, now I actually know this for a fact, so I can include that in there. I had researched a little bit more about public domain, and I was like, okay, so I can actually include things straight out of her books, so that way I can, really, show you her writing style and everything, not just mine. And then I just listened to Anna Catherine Green books, the audiobooks that I could find, which most of them were on like LibriVox, right, the free recording. But that way I could just hear her words and kind of get into her language, because I wanted my book to sound like her. It's definitely, I write differently than she does, but there's also a lot of similarities. So hopefully the voice is similar enough. Did you feel like A Deed of Dreadful Note reads differently than the Spokane books, or is it similar?
It reads different, but mainly because there's less food description.
Yes, that's true. I don't know that I have any food in the Anna Catherine Green one. Yeah,
I think you might mention a couple dinners where like the housekeeper will be.
Yes.
For those of you watching this, I was a beta reader for this book, and so I have yet to read the final version.
Yes.
But the version that I did read, I thoroughly enjoyed, despite the fact that being a beta reader gave me all sorts of anxiety, because like the first 30%, I had some critiques for.
It was rough. Yeah.
It was more rough on me because you took it in stride. I thought I was being an absolute jerk.
Oh no.
Because like my one of my littler messages is, I don't think you've quite finalized the switching of the tenses yet in the first 30%. And I gave a couple, Sokol being a couple of my my examples. But in terms of food, I think you mentioned some teas, and there's a couple dinners where they're mentioning the housekeeper might be mad if they miss dinner again, or something like that.
But not really detailed. That's true. They're sitting and they're mostly like they're not eating because they're talking.
Yeah, they're too busy having discourse about the case.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas in Spokane, I definitely, and part of that is because for Spokane specifically, I had a character who's a cook and a character who's a maid. And I chose those because I'd done so much research into old cookbooks from the 19th century. And cookbooks at that time are half recipes and half remedies for, how to clean things and how to heal things and all of that. And so I was like, well, I have to have a character where I can include all this information that I've gone down the rabbit hole for. So then I ended up finding all these great recipes and all these great, menus. And it's like, oh, it sounds so delicious.
Do you watch, it's here on YouTube, do you watch Tasting History?
Yes.
With Max Miller? I just got his cookbook. I actually nerded out because I included it in a book haul, and he commented.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I was like, like, so I tagged him in it because he's like a 500,000 to 1 million channel. So I just assumed it would go into his algorithm and get lost.
Yeah.
And when he was just like, oh, hey, I'm the odd one out. Thanks for buying the book. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, he was just literally acknowledging my existence. And that was enough to make me just squeal.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, I love antique recipes, which is why we need to do our cooking show.
Yes, we will. We will.
Was it Hay and Nico and I don't know. I think that would be a lot of fun. And I need to get Andrew on the Hobbit watch along. We need to get that scheduled because it was supposed to be last minute.
Come on, what's holding us up?
Yeah, right. Life.
Writing books, crazy.
Yeah, writing books. I don't care that y'all are writing new books. Speaking of which, what do you have currently? What's your work in progress currently looking like?
So right now I'm working on a fantastical Christmas cozy mystery. So
is this a new series?
This is a new series. Yes.
Why?
Crazy. I decided I needed a year break to do more research for the next 3 books in the Spokane series. So while I'm researching and preparing for all of that, and we moved away from Spokane, so I had to make sure like I had everything ready. I decided to work on 2 different projects. So I've got the Deed of Dreadful Note. So that one's out. So now I'm working on this Christmas mystery, which is very fantastical. It's a North Pole mystery. The main character.
I remember you mentioning this.
Yes, yeah. So this is my talking snowman.
Okay, I have a vague recollection of this being mentioned, but I think it was on the couples live show that you did with Andrew.
Yes.
Where I came in at the very end and dropped 30
and showered us with
questions because I was late as all get out.
That's okay.
And then I vaguely remember Andrew kind of prodding you a little bit, giving you a little
bit. Because at this point, it better actually come out this year. So I discovered that 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. It's the 200th anniversary of the publication in 1823 is this Christmas. So it came out December 23rd, 1823. So I was like, okay, I've had this idea for a Christmas mystery. I started writing it last Christmas because then, all the Christmas stuff was up and I had this idea. And so I started it. But then I took a break from it, finished Deed of Dreadful Note, and then now I'm getting back to it. So it has to be done because I really want to release it for the 200th anniversary. I think that would be so cool. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just pulling from different conversations we've had.
Yeah.
In terms of audiobook recording, how has recording your first audiobook, what's that experience been like for you?
It was fun. I have a theater background, or I have done theater through high school, college. And so it felt like getting back up on the stage, which was really fun. Because I went ahead and I tried to do voices and everything. And yes, Anita, I am working on that too. It was really fun. I needed Andrew, my husband, to do the editing part of it. What we worked out was he did that part of it. So I just got to read my book and record it. And I got to do all the okay.
I don't know why you would think it was a good idea to give Anita your home address, but I feel like this is on you.
I sent her a book and now she has my address.
That was dangerous.
I know. Oh, I would love it if Anita came to say hi, though. That would be amazing. Party at our house. Everybody can just come here because Colorado is centrally located. So
I love Colorado.
So yeah.
I've been to Colorado twice in my life.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And you get to go there. You get to wake up there every day. I'm jealous.
It's amazing. The mountains are right there. We're in Colorado Springs. So Pikes Peak. Oh, I love it. So yeah. I forget what I was talking about.
So, and you don't have to answer this question, but as somebody who is homeschooling her kids, what does your writing day look like? And how involved is your family and your children? Because I did when I received this, I flipped through the dedication, which is to Andrew, and the acknowledgments and all of that, and you do mention family quite a bit. And so I just kind of want to touch on that a little bit.
Yes. So we were very blessed to live for the last 8 years in Spokane, which is where Andrew's family is based. And we decided to do that when we had our first kid. We were like, okay, I want to be near family. I want that support system. And so we went and lived in Spokane for 8 years. And because of that, I was able to have, basically free babysitting. I worked out to like twice a month. So that meant I had 2 days a month, sometimes 4, where I could really solidly write. So I spend a lot of time researching and doing little things during the week, especially at night, because I'm a nighttime person. Andrew, my husband, is a morning person. So he wakes up at 5 in the morning and he writes every morning because he's crazy. And whenever
I message him, he's already awake.
Right. Yes, exactly. I don't know how he does it, but part of it is I can't imagine getting up that early because I stay up really, really late. So if I can get going on writing, I'll be up until midnight or 1 o'clock writing. So it's really, I'm definitely a wave writer. I am not one of those people who can say, yep, you got to write 1,000 words every day. I can't do that. I don't have a lifestyle that works with that. I'm distracted by my kids all the time. So for me, like I purposely planned, okay, I'm going to write a first draft, like this first draft of this Christmas book. It has to happen during summer break when I'm not homeschooling, because otherwise I'm too busy during the homeschool year. So I find time here and there to do other things. So it's a lot of writing during the summer. And then because we moved here, so now my parents are here in Colorado, and so now we have that support system here. So we just kind of swapped grandparents. So it was time for them to have a turn with the kids. So so we've been here, and also here I have found more co-op groups and support systems for homeschoolers. So like next year they'll be going to a homeschool co-op once a week, and so I will have one entire day every week to write, and I'm so excited. So yeah, I'll be whipping through the next 3 books of the Spokane series. That's my goal. So
nice. And now, how involved are they with your work? Do they read it? Do they give you feedback?
No, yeah. So they have not read any of our current books because all of them are fiction. Yeah, no, they have not read any of them. They could almost read thrice. We keep talking about it. But like, for example, right now we're reading Harry Potter for the first time because they're 7 and 9 now. Yeah, 7 and 9.
Okay, so that's a little young for murder mystery.
Little young, yeah. It's just it's not like I think
not like where your first book starts off with a decapitation or something.
Right, exactly. So it's like I think our fiction is overall it's very clean and it's very positive. But it's murder and mayhem and adultery and other adult things.
Now that you say that out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So, but on the side, I do write children's books. That was my original goal, was I wanted to write children's books. So I actually have like a middle grade series that I'm kind of working on, but with middle grade, you still need like art. And so I have a couple artists that I'm talking to, and just,
Sarah Ferrari is amazing.
Yeah, she's so busy. So she's the one I've been talking to, but right now she's working on stuff for my husband. So,
So Althea's got a great question here that I didn't even think of. How do you come up with different mysteries for your characters to solve?
That's my favorite part, is coming up with the mysteries. I have I use Evernote, so it's a note taking system. I mean, it's just kind of like Post-its almost. You can do it that way. But that's how I collect all of my notes. And so I have a sheet that is future ideas for mysteries. I have future twists. I have locations. I have specific ones for Spokane. That's like, okay, Spokane locations, people, places, events that happened in Spokane's history that I want to make sure are featured at some point in the books. Because one of the things that I really love doing in the Spokane books is featuring places that you can still go to today. So I love that, you can actually go to the Campbell house. You can actually go to the creek where they find the body in the second one, things like that. You can actually, the Clocktower, all of that is still there. So you can actually go visit that. So I have different sheets like that. So one of them is all mystery ideas. So whenever I get an idea, and it's actually usually reading mysteries, or I'll just be reading a book and something will come to me. I'll just be like, oh, well, if I was writing this story, this is how I would have it. So how I would have the twist be. And usually it's different than that in their version, because that's the direction they decided to go. So that means that I can use the way I would have taken it in my own way, because as soon as you change the characters and the scenery, it switches. And I also have a tendency to I wait until I have at least 2 mysteries that kind of work together. Because I like to have parallel things going on in Anna Catherine Green. It didn't really end up that way. Yeah, it ended up being the parallel was her writing her book, right? So it's half of it is her writing.
You've got a couple mysteries. Like you've got a red herring that's going on out here.
That's true.
Connected, yes. But it's its own separate mystery until it is solved.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's yeah. But with like the Spokane series, usually there's 2 storylines going on, and then they intersect somewhere. and work out together. So yeah, so I make lists, and when I find, I'll come across two things and I'm like, oh, those are the two that go together. And then it just
snaps together.
It just snaps together.
Okay.
It's really
I have
weird
to
how it
post
works out.
Anita's question, otherwise she starts spamming, why are you
Yes.
emailing me?
Yes.
But she says, repeated question, how do you manage writing, homeschooling, reading, researching, and being active in social media without going absolutely insane?
I know, it's crazy. It's finding that work-life balance that nobody has. It just doesn't exist. I try to do what makes me happy. So if I'm going through a period where I'm like, you know what, I'm not having fun writing right now, so I'm going to do some research, because I can always do research. That always makes me happy. I don't know why. And that's actually why I went into historical fiction in the first place. I was like, well, I could write mystery, but I also really love the research aspect of the history part. And I like the box that history puts me in, because it means I can't do certain things. Like I can't kill off Anna Catherine Green. She has to survive. So she has to marry the person she's going to marry, things like that. I like that box, because then I like, going as far to the edges as I can and kind of, pushing against the side, and seeing what I can do with that. And then working it out all together. So, so I don't know. Each person has to find their own way that works for them of balancing it. And honestly, there are times when it doesn't work. And this last year when we were moving, like I didn't get any writing done. And that's probably partially why I went back and grabbed Anna Catherine Green. I was like, well, this is at least a finished first draft, so this will be easy to publish. It wasn't, but it was easier than starting from scratch, which is what I'm trying to do now, because I'm nuts. But yeah.
That's fair. So in terms of like researching, do you like go into like library microfilms? Do you go into online databases?
Yeah, it's mostly online now. A lot of things, which thankfully, because it means that I can actually just run a search for things. So like I wanted to make sure that when I placed Anna Catherine Green in New York City, I knew her exact address of where they were living at that time. So that took me to discovering the city listings for New York City in 1872. And of course she's not listed, her father's listed. So I had to find him and then figure out, okay, so which one, because it'll have like a business address, but it'll also have his home address. Tracking it down that way. And the same way for the Spokane ones, I look for the city listings and then I know where people live and things like that. So it's, the research can get very, very specific. And thankfully, a lot of it is online now where you can just do a search. But like for Anna Catherine Green, eventually I'm going to have to go track down her original stuff, which is in 2 museums is what I've tracked it to so far. There's one in Texas and one in just outside Philadelphia.
I was just about to bring that up. I remember Andrew going, oh, poor Patricia. She has to go on a road trip to do something she loves.
I know. And then I get to write it off. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, we do have another question involving characters. What kind of characters do you like writing and or reading about?
Oh, all sorts. I like realistic characters, though. I like characters that you want to sit down with and have a cup of coffee. And so my books are very character driven. I think anybody who reads my books would describe them that way, right?
Yeah.
They're very, like it's more about the character, especially the Spokane series. It's more about the characters than it is about the plot. It's the mystery is on the side. And that's because mostly the mysteries I like to read and watch are ones where, I watch Castle because I love Castle and Kate and, and all the side characters there too. I don't watch it because of the mysteries necessarily. It's the characters that I love. Psych is the same way. I love Sean and Gus. They're hilarious. And I love banter between characters. So that's another way. So like how you were saying about like how I quilt books, that's how I like to write is I usually start with the ending and then I start with the beginning and then I'll have a sheet, again, another one of my little notes where I put down lines between characters. So I'll have, especially like in the Spokane series, Thomas and Bernard are always talking in my head. They're my twin detectives, the Carew brothers, and they are always bantering. And so anytime they have a good banter in my head, I will write it down and I'll save it and eventually it will fit into a book. And if it doesn't fit, like I've had lots of beta reads where people have been like, this didn't feel like it fit here. So I'll pull it out, but I just save it. So that way, eventually it will probably come up. And so same with Anna Catherine Green. She and Sokol would have these conversations, and I would just, I know what I want them to say, so I'm going to write it down over here, and then I'll plug it in eventually. So yeah.
And one thing I should have mentioned before we got so far into the interview is we talked about this on your channel during the book launch, I think, was the nature of the inquest and how that's kind of been lost to time. And like, was there a purpose or an intent? There we go. A willful intent to bring that back into kind of knowledge, because like I was so confused. Like I had to go and look up inquests. I was messaging people. I was like, what is this thing? Mm-hmm. Like it's almost like a lost bit of culture.
Yeah.
The way that this policing was done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it mainly happened because the Leavenworth case opens that way.
Right.
So I was like, well, that's how the Leavenworth case opens. So that's how we're going to open, is with a death. And here we go to the inquest. And what shocked me about the Leavenworth case was the same thing that shocked you. It's like, wait, they just found the body. They're already doing the inquest. Like they just grab random people. And yeah, the idea was that the random people who are on the street right now must be this person's peers. So therefore they qualify as a jury. So, and of course, at this time, it's also just men. So if a man dies on Fifth Avenue, they're going to run outside, grab a bunch of random men, and bring them in as the jury. And so then they get to go see the body. They get to see everything. It's like, wow, okay. And I guess the idea was that would help the police, because also remember, the police are just starting up. So they don't really have a way of doing things yet, right? It's a very, in fact, a lot of the things that they incorporated into the structure of the way the American police work come from the French system, the French, and then the British, and then American. And at this point in the 1870s, it's still a lot of, unfortunately, just bashing people over the head until they admit that they have done this thing that the police believe that they did. And it doesn't become the deductive reasoning that we see in Sherlock until after Sherlock. Sherlock actually greatly inspired the modern day police force. And we don't have forensics yet, right? We don't have, hello, dearie.
Hey, Derry.
We don't have forensics. We don't have fingerprinting yet. We don't have, and that's why I love writing in this time period, because again, I love that box. So I love that they don't have all of I honestly don't know how you would write mysteries in modern fiction. In fact, that's usually why you see a lot of amateur detectives, I think, primarily because the professional police, it really doesn't take them that long to solve a crime anymore. It's really hard to get away with stuff now because there is so much forensic stuff that they can really track it down pretty specifically. Whereas back in the 1900s and 1800s, it's still that wishy-washy, I don't know.
You've still got like some of the greatest mysteries in crime are still unsolved from that era. Right. Jack the Ripper is still, it's widely speculated. I've watched 5 different documentaries.
Yeah.
Telling me who Jack the Ripper was, and each documentary is a separate person.
Right. And it makes sense, right? And it follows the line. And Murdoch Mysteries is another one that I love, Canadian. I
think I heard about this from you or my mother-in-law.
Okay.
Horrible acting, atrocious acting, but at the same time wildly entertaining.
Exactly. It's like I compare it to Leverage. Leverage is another one where you're like, wow, these are really bad actors. But I love them so much. Their characters are so wonderful that you cling on for the rest of the series. Murdoch Mysteries gets better the further into it you go. And the original books are actually really good as well. So I'm blanking on the author's name, but they're a little bit, not a little bit, they're a lot darker than the TV show. So I personally prefer the TV show. I'm definitely on the lighter side of mystery. I prefer my mysteries cozy. Yeah, Alethea, exactly. I love Murdoch Mysteries. They're amazing.
I remember watching one episode, like season 2 or 3. Yeah. I had zero context, and I'm watching. I was like, "This is season 3. It's been renewed." And they're like, "Yeah," and I was like, "This is bad."
Yeah.
And I still kept watching it.
Right. And my favorite ones of those are the historical ones. They do a really good job of like I think Tesla's in the very first one. And then they eventually, like, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle really did come to Canada during his big trip. And so he comes in and he does this whole thing, and it's in between him, just like my books. It's in between when Sherlock is dead. So there's this, this whole thing about, well, he should bring back Sherlock, and maybe it's inspired by Murdoch and things like that. So I love doing that kind of thing. So actually, my writing is very much inspired by Murdoch Mysteries. It's very similar with all the Easter eggs and references and stuff.
Well, luckily, I can adjust the acting in my head to where
it's
amazing. Anita says, do you want readers to have theories and solve the mystery before the end, or you don't want them to solve it until the big reveal?
I want them to solve it right before the characters do. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, like, there's a point in Butcher Baker. There's a point where two characters have a conversation, and often people will ping me and be like, I knew then that person was the murderer.
Butcher Baker,
I'm okay with that.
I was 70% there.
Yeah.
There's kind of a layered mystery going on in Butcher Baker, and I didn't get that deeper layer. I got most of it.
Yes.
But I didn't get the full thing.
Well, and that's the other thing is definitely in Butcher Baker, all the clues are there. If you know what I'm doing with the storyline, and you know where I'm going with it, then it is all there. So a lot of people, when they reread the books, they're like, oh yeah, it was all there. Why did I miss this? And it's like, well, because you're not supposed to see it the first time around, right? So hopefully it's layered enough. But there are people who read it and they're like, oh no, I knew it was that person from the very beginning, and that's fine. I don't care. Either way, as long as it still pulled you through and it was engaging for you. But my goal is that you are picking up on clues along the way and guessing the whole way, and then are able to guess it kind of with the characters or a page or two before. So
Derry wants to know, do your stories include the fascination with the arcane that pervaded society at the time?
Arcane. So you mean like seances and things like that?
Yeah, like seances and
I haven't really gotten into it too much. One of my favorite books, though, of all time is To Say Nothing of the Dog by Connie Willis, which is a historical time travel mystery. It's kind of a mystery. It is a mystery. And it's time travel, and it's wonderful, and it's the same time period. And she does a lot of things with seances, which is really funny to me. And then, of course, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was fascinated by it and all of that. And so I have not really dived into it that much. But mostly because I don't know. I kind of, it's so fake to me. It's so like
hokey.
It's just like, really, come on, guys. So what I like to focus on is the science of the period, and how that conflicted a lot with just the beliefs of the time. So like my main character in the Spokane series is a clockmaker, but he's working with a blind blacksmith, and they are inventing sound theory things. So they want to make like a sound gun, and they want to invent different things with sound experiments, because at that point, that's what everybody was talking about, right? The telegraph, the telephone is about to come out. You've got the phonograph and the gramophone and all of these different things. And just sound was it was like, oh my gosh, the world is getting so loud. It's so loud. And this is, only the 1800s. So they have no idea what's coming. But with the Industrial Revolution, there's a lot of that. And so I like to play with the science part of it, because that's what fascinates me. So yes, Say Nothing of the Dog is absolutely hilarious. If you love like P.G. Wodehouse, that kind of humor, that kind of writing, it's wonderful. It's my favorite book of all time.
So I posed a question to you a couple discussions ago. I don't know if you've had a chance to research it at all or what.
Okay.
But when it came to Agatha Christie and Arthur Conan Doyle, they both grew to hate their big detectives.
Right.
Poirot.
Yeah.
Poirot. Because there's an I, my brain doesn't want to go Poirot.
Yeah.
It wants to go Pierre.
Yeah.
And Sherlock, both of those authors tried to kill them off.
Right. Yeah.
And do you know if Anna ever tried to do that with Grice?
Not that I saw. No. Yeah. She never kills him off. But she does introduce her female detective about where probably she was starting to feel that, like, okay, come on, I want to come up with somebody new. Because when I looked it up, because you had asked that, and so I was like, okay, so it's about 6 Grice books in, which again, he is the first American detective who was serialized. So he's the first one that has like a whole series behind him. So that's a big deal. And then, but then, yeah, she kind of, I don't know if she got tired of him. Like, I haven't found exactly that being said anywhere. But it is interesting that it is about 6 books in that she introduces a new detective, which is about where usually like Agatha Christie starts talking about it with Poirot. And in fact, it's about, well, no, from really early on, Agatha Christie has quite a few. She's always got lots of different stories going on, lots of different lead detectives. She's got her short stories. She's got, all sorts of things. So she's actually, it's more than Poirot when you get into Agatha Christie. But like Dorothy L. Sayers is mostly just Lord Peter Wimsey. G. Chesterton is just Father Brown. So some people, I don't know. Like, I don't know that I'll get tired of I think that's why I like my multiple POVs, because then I can, I'm getting a little bored with this person, so I'm going to go over here and rate them. So
yeah, I guess like, I'm not saying that like I was asking for more historical side of things, but like I didn't know that about Agatha Christie, because I didn't know there were 33 Poirots.
Yes.
Like when I realized, because I was like, oh yeah, there's like 7. I'll read the 7 because I've always wanted to know, and then it was just like the list kept going, and I was just
so many books. When you actually get on Goodreads and look at all, I don't even know how many. It's over in the hundreds. Like, it's oh my gosh, it's amazing. She's very prolific. They're also this big, right? They're all like 50,000 words or less. So it's it's quick in, quick out. But she's very good at her puzzles and her
I'm gonna kick myself for forgetting the name of it. You're gonna probably know it right off the bat. The only Agatha Christie that I remember is the one where they all meet up at a train station and then go to an island, and then people just start dropping dead in this house.
Yes. So and then there were none.
And then there were none. There we go. Yes. I read that in high school. I loved that book.
Yes.
But because I'm such a fantasy head, it is hard. The reason that I think these are so just deserving of more attention is because it's very hard to get a fantasy head like me to step away from my dragons and my griffins and everything like that to just go back to 1900 or 1870 and just deal with a little bit of old school murder.
Right.
As I drop a book. As I drop 2 books.
I
drop all of my books.
Oh no. I'm wondering why that was. Like, why do you think that was? Why did these ones pull you in?
Honestly, because it's character first.
Yeah.
So the thing with Christie is, from that one, it's about the mystery, but not about the characters.
Not about the characters, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And something that I've discovered about myself as a reader is the better your character, the better your character work. Like some of my favorite books, like No Land for Heroes by Cal Black, which is a Western fantasy, dives very deep into the character. Like, you get to know who Millie is. And so when I can really get into the meat of who a character is and just get to know them more and connect with a character, and then if you weave in a mystery on top of that, then it's just icing on the cake. But I think it's the character work is what really does it for me.
Excellent. Well, yep, you'll get 9 more books with these characters?
I'm fine with that. I'm on between you and Andrew. I'm set for a good long time.
Yeah.
The 2 of you are on my auto buy list.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I think Andrew's let me buy one of his books.
Yeah.
I think I bought Fourscored. Like, that's the only book I've been allowed to purchase. So, you guys keep me in books, and I appreciate it. And I love Butcher Baker's all the way over there. But I do love these books quite a bit. And I am so happy to have bumped into y'all here on this internet.
Yes.
Space.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. Yeah, fun question before we wrap up. What is an antiquated recipe you want to work into the series next?
Ooh, yeah, I have a list. Where's my cookbook?
Yeah, go grab. You grab a cookbook. I'll grab Butcher Baker.
Okay.
Get back here.
Yeah.
Get over here.
So this is my compendium of cookery and reliable recipes. And I actually have 2 copies of this one because they're falling apart. It's published in 1890. This is my favorite one to go to. Mostly because it's I like to choose cookbooks that like weren't published in 1901. Like I have one that's the Settlement Cookbook from 1901, but I rarely use that one because I don't know that Mrs. Curry would have it on her shelf yet, right? It's brand new, but she would definitely have something like this that has, she's had it for a couple years. It's been out for a while, and I love it because it's not detailed.
Is Mrs. Curry you?
Mrs. Curry me, yes.
Is that you injecting yourself into the story?
She's so much fun to write. She is probably going to be the one who is the main point of view in the Christmas mystery.
I would be okay
writing
with
in
that.
Her head would be so
her
much
making
fun.
Some Christmas puddings.
It's going to be like all Christmas. She's going to be making a big, big thing, and that's why I think it would be really fun to have her as the main person. Also because she would be all over the place. She would be, thinking about this, and then, oh nope, something's burning. I got to go over here and fix this. And not that she would ever burn anything, but I love the recipes in this one. They're very simple. Nice. So it's like just the ingredients. There's maybe it'll mention if you should cook it in a hot oven versus not, but like stewed mushrooms, it's like, you put them in a pan and put some salt and pepper on them.
So back then people knew how to cook. They didn't just assume you were
it was just kind of assumed. Now you can find ones that are more detailed that are specifically for the new money, the people who are the middle class, the new middle class. So middle class was a new thing in the 1800s, and so you've got people who are making just enough money that they can't afford to hire a cook, so they have to learn to cook themselves. But that was, but it was either you were extremely poor or you were extremely rich, right? So having this middle class where, well, I could hire a cook or I could just do it myself. So there are some more detailed ones, but like I think I mentioned it in Butcher Baker. One of my favorite recipes for chicken pot pie begins with kill the chicken in the usual way. Like that's awesome. Okay. I'll just go out and do that. So, yeah. There's so many. There's like jams and jellies, and yeah. I was just trying to think if there was like one I had marked that actually
a specific recipe. I don't know. I put you on the spot. It was supposed to just be a fun question. You don't need to stress out over it.
Yeah, but there you go. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, we are reaching the end of the interview. Patricia, where can people find you, find your blog, find your books? What have you? I do have your YouTube channel linked in the description box down below.
Yes.
People want to check you out there as well.
Exactly. But, so I've got a YouTube channel where I talk about my books and interview other authors and talk about my process and everything, and share more of the history behind my books, because that's the primary thing that I like to talk about. Which you can also learn more about that at my website, patricia-meredith.com. And like I said, if you sign up for my newsletter there, you can get a free copy of the Leavenworth Case. And it does have an introduction in the front of it that I wrote that tells you a little bit more about the history behind Anna Catherine Green and says, hey, go get this book. So you can tie it all together. And you don't have to have read the Leavenworth Case in order to read my book. But in fact, I would almost recommend that you read my book and then read the Leavenworth Case. I think that's how most people are going to do it.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm waiting for Andrew to finish.
So, there you go. Yeah. But all my books are available in all 3 formats. So you can find them in ebook, print, or audiobook, anywhere books are sold. And if you can't find it, request it. Yep. And you can get it, request it through your library. I love it when people request my books through libraries, because then it's available to everybody.
Audiobooks are also available. If you have a Scribd membership, you can find them on Scribd, which was very helpful for me.
Yes. Yeah. So A Deed of Dreadful Note, I narrated, and then Rebecca Cook is the wonderful, incredible narrator who does my Spokane series. She's amazing. She does such a good job. So, yeah. So there we go.
This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we get to hang out a little bit more in the future.
Yes.
Let's get that all slapped together, thrown out. We'll hang out on your channel. We'll hang out on Andrew's channel. We'll hang out on somebody's channel.
Kay's, I think, might be next.
Kay's, Kay, in a couple weeks, it should be Kay's channel.
Yeah.
So, yes, thanks for taking the time to talk with me. And people, please,
thank you.
Buy these books. Get these books. Love these books. Consume these books. And then leave a review because they're amazing.
Thank you.
But that's all I've really got. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we hang up and just kind of go about our own business?
Nope. All good.
All right. Well,
thank you for having me.
So thanks for hanging out, and let's just say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And now the long